I just asked Bodie what I should talk about in the webinar. The surprising CPI report. Dive into the details. Okay, I was going to do that. Analyze the swift market response to the CPI report, including plunging treasury yields. All right, let's do that. The Fed's likely response, how the CPI report might influence the Fed's decision. Update the updated dot plot and projections. Okay, we'll get those when we see them. Powell's press conference, highlight the importance of Powell's tone and messaging in the post-meeting press conference. Discuss how he may acknowledge the progress on inflation while emphasizing the need. The tug of war between the Fed, so on and so forth. Very nice. Okay, good job. No thinking on my part required at all. How's it going, Mike? Can you see the screen? Any progress? All right, thank you. At least Michael's talking to me. Mike, this is your session, so name that tune. All right, so number one, let's do this. Let's talk about, we've done this before, but I'll just go through the motion here so you know what's going on. Go away. Make the sign of the cross for this guy. Let's see, FOMC meeting calendar, correct? That's the best thing about Google, like it's very, very good at picking what you're about to say. Meeting calendar statement, so on and so forth. January, February, March, April, May. PDF, HTML, projection materials. Minutes, statement. So we want to compare, so FYI, here's the last Fed statement, and we'll want to compare it to the new statement when that comes out in an hour. It's the right one, isn't it? May 1st, 2024. Okay. Oh, it's always better to do this. I don't have to go find the place to put the end quote. And boom, and boom. Okay. Good. So now he's going to have that for comparison. We'll have this up in case when we want to get back to it. And what were Bodie's suggestions for the conference here? Okay, talk about the CPI report, which we did this morning, kind of. Dive into the details of the cooling expected inflation data released this morning. Discuss how both headline and core CPI came in below forecast, suggesting that disinflationary process may be gaining traction faster than anticipated. I don't agree with that. I think it's one report. I think when it goes over, people freak out. When it goes under, people freak out. So if we look at CPI over here, oh, they don't have a month by month. So look at commodities. Commodities died, and that gave us this big relief in CPI. It was a real pullback in commodities, and you can see that here. Let's see if I can make that a bit bigger. See what? Oh, look at the Dow. Wow, wow. What is that? That's from. Geez, that's interesting, right? I guess that's from the oil. No, it's even before the oil report though. So from 13,9,174 to 13,939 to 38, lost to 39,170. So 350 points. So we had a 350 point drop since this morning. We gave up all those gains. Now the S&P has not been so unlucky so far. And the NASDAQ, of course, with Apple and Nvidia doing well, you're not going to have any trouble there. And the Russell, small caps, smaller caps, still pretty big companies. Still playing with this line. So I'm going to go back to daily. So we just keep topping out here at 2100. So we'll see what happens. And what's the Dow's problem? See, the Dow's pretty much in this range, 3840, 3840. So we'll see what happens. Dow's playing a 2,000 point range, which is only 5%. You know, that's a 5% line right there. So the Dow is ranging there and is pretty reliable to play, I imagine. And we will see what happens over there. CPI. Where was it? Boom, May CPI. Oh, commodities, that's right. We were going to look at the commodities. So we have energy. So what we care is what the CPI report is for May, I believe. Yeah, it's for the month of May. So when you want to look and see what happened, you got to look inside the month of May and say, what the hell happened here? So in May, clearly oil prices were lower than they were in April. Heating oil much cheaper. So, you know, here's it, you know, what's April's average about here? What's May's average about here? That's pretty significant. All right. So that's why the X food and energy is a big difference. Now, gasoline, so all energy prices except natural gas. But then again, here's the thing you have to think about. What do you use natural gas for in May? It's pool heating season. That's the main thing about May for natural gas is everybody starts heating up their pools, and that uses tremendous amounts of energy. But you know, most of the country doesn't have continually warm weather, so when it's time to open their pools, they'll run those heaters day and night until they get the temperature up to where they need it. So natural gas got much more expensive, 50% more expensive over the course of the month, but you're not really heating your home and you're not really cooling your home so much in May. It's kind of, you know, nice springtime weather. For most of the country. Now we have a nightmare going on in the West and the Southwest. It's like, you know, 120 degrees and things like that. I can't even imagine what the summer is going to be like if you're starting out at 120 in May. Got some nasty stuff going on. But anyway, so that's that. Here's the bond situation. Maybe. Did I not click it? Do I not know how to click something? Oh, there it goes. You start questioning yourself, you know, when things don't respond. So that's weird. So they were, oh no, this is daily. That's crazy. That's like a super overreaction, but that's, you know, so they're all thinking the Fed now is potentially easing, which means they're on a very wrong foot considering the overall sell-off. Well, I mean, not really. I mean, they're as high as they were in April. Let's go to a weekly and see. So yeah, on a weekly basis, again, they're basically splitting the middle, right? They came down and they're halfway back to where they were. So this is back to being indecisive, if anything. The soft lumber is back to the lower part of the range. Cotton came to the lower part of the range. Orange is still expensive. Sugar came way back down. Coffee is still going up. Cocoa is still going up. These are from environmental damage. There's a serious environmental problem with coffee and cocoa They're both sensitive. They've both grown a very narrow band of the climate, and those climate bands are changing, and it's screwing everything up. Big problems down the line for those things. See, the thing is, usually we adapt our farming techniques and we migrate workers and so on and so forth. And we do these things over like the course of hundreds of years as climate changes, right? It changes very gradually usually. Now it's like almost we're flipping a freaking switch and everybody's got to like run. You know, the cocoa farmers from this region have to run to another region now where cocoa growing will be successful. But that doesn't work that way because you have to build a house and a plantation and put the workers there and have the mill and the runoffs and all this environmental stuff. Everything has to happen, and those things usually get built or were built 100 years ago because it used, you know, we have this concept of like crops being steady to a certain climate. The climates aren't the same anymore. The crops can still be grown, but you've got to move 100 miles away from where you used to be. Maybe 200 miles away from where you used to be. That's an incredibly huge undertaking. And somebody else lives where you want to grow the stuff, and they don't want to be a cocoa farmer, maybe. You know, there you know, it could be a ski resort where you want to build your cocoa farm. So that's what the problem is. The problem is a dislocation of resources and people and infrastructure to deal with it, not to mention transportation and so on and so forth. So when you have rapid climate change, you create a terrible need for things that we just simply are not prepared to provide. So gold's still up near the highs, silver's still up near the highs. Platinum fell off considerably. Palladium is interesting because palladium is used for filters and things like that. But I think the thing is we're selling less catalytic converters overall. Copper's weird. Copper went all the way up to 5 and then pulled back 10% from 5. So we went from 350 at the lows last year to 4, and then we smashed out of 4 and we went to 450, even not even for very long, and then right up to 5. So clearly that's too much. If you want to look at it from the 5% rule point of view, you're going too expensive so far. In fact, Valet is our trade of the year, and this is what we knew this was going to happen in November. We thought we would do better from it because look what freaking happened from November. This is when we made our trade of the year pick. Now Valet's not really a copper miner; they're steel, but the idea was there would be demand for these metals and so on and so forth. Where is my FinBiz? Oh, this is FinBiz. No wonder I can't find it. All right, we'll get to that later. We get to it now. Got meats, grains, nothing exciting going on there. Interesting though, big drop in corn, big drop in oats, big drop in soybeans. What's going on? What is happening? It's weird. Currencies, of course, we keep our eye on. Here's the rally. Look at where the rally's coming from today. The dollar fell from 105, almost 105.5 to 104. So we're talking about 1.5, it's about 1.25%. That's a huge downward move on the dollar. I don't know whether Japan did something or whether it was natural, but it probably was not natural. Look at the freaking yen. Jesus Christ. So, yeah, something happened with the yen, right? Because they just went spiking out of control. So I'm sure that the Bank of Japan did something. Anyway, either way, though, the dollar came down sharply. That boosted oil. It boosted the markets. So now you got to go back to the markets and say, okay, well, we had a 1.5%, a 1.25% gain on the loss on the dollar, and all we're up is against the dollar loss. Russell is up double. And then you look at energy prices too, and you say, okay, well, they're just moving with the dollar. The dollar went down, the energy prices went up. So we don't have any really clear evidence that this is legitimate, what's going on right now. Let's see, the Fed's likely response. Well, the Fed's likely response is we will find out soon. I wouldn't want to speculate because everything's so nuts. 30-year fixed hit 6.98%. What the frick are they talking about? I'm looking at CNBC over there. It's too much stuff. I got to see that. 30-year fixed. Oh, it must be mortgage rates. Oh, that's what it is. I'm not looking to do anything. I just want to know what the 30-year mortgage rate is. And you're trying to sell me stuff. This is why Google sucks. This is why AI is going to kill them. I don't want to know this. I asked Google a question and here's what I get. 1, 2, 3, 4 advertisements instead of the actual answer. There's the ad. There's the answer finally. 7.5%. That's nasty. It's off the highs. It was touching 8% for a while. So I guess you consider 7.5% a good thing at this point, but that's still really expensive, man. That's very hard to afford. 7% for fixed FHA or VA. You know, how are we gonna have a housing market recovery if this is going on? But people were taking mortgages. As you know, the rates came down a little bit, and people took mortgages last week. 15% more mortgages this last week than the week before. So that was a little bit interesting. Anyway, back to the EIA. So we got our report this morning. It's really bad for oil. Here we go. Can you see that? I can barely see it. There. Oh, look at that. That's huge. All right. So week ending June 7th. Today is the 12th. That makes sense. Refineries at 95% of their capacity. So we're not going to get much more capacity out of these guys. Gasoline production increased last week, averaging 10 million barrels a day. Distillate fuel decreased, averaging 5 million a day. There's no, unless you know what it decreased from, what's the difference? Imports average 8.3 million barrels a day, increased by 1.2 million barrels. Oh, we increased a lot more oil. We imported a lot more oil. Over the past 4 weeks, crude oil imports average 7.2 million barrels per day. So we're importing more and more oil, and that's what's driving the refining capacity more so than our local production. Gasoline imports, blending components, blah, blah, blah. All right, here we go. Commercial crude inventories, excluding those in the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, increased 3.7 million barrels from the previous week. Crude oil are about 4% below the 5-year average for this time of year, which is nothing. Gasoline inventories increased by 2.6 is bad. Increase in oil, increased in gas. slightly below the 5-year average, both finished and gasoline blending components. Distillates increased by another million barrels, basically 7% below the average. Propane and blah, blah, blah invoices also increased. Everything increased. That's a disaster. We went from 46, and this is the other thing. You see all other oils, this is a secret number that they don't even report they don't even report it here. All other oils went up from 67 to 71. That's another 4 million barrels. So overall, we have, oh, and the SPR, nope, the SPR is pretty flat. A few 100,000 barrels went in the SPR. So overall, we went from 46 to 58. That's 12 million barrel build in one freaking week. We built 12 million barrels. We only use 19 million barrels a day, and we don't even use it because we export 4.6 million barrels a day. So look at the exports went up by 350,000 barrels a day. So that's what? That's 2 million barrels a week additional exporting that we did more so than last week. So that's kind of crazy. And this whole number is crazy. The fact that we export 4.6 million barrels. So out of 19 million barrels, 4.6 million is for export. Calculator. So 4.6 divided by 19.8. 23%. 23% of the oil that is, quotes, used by the United States is for export to other countries. Is it that we refine it and we send it overseas? 23%. Crude inventories per barrel, spot prices. What else do we have here? Anyway, so clearly the oil guys are in trouble. And in fact, oh yeah, where's that? Flipboard, FLIPBO, Flipboard. Pretty sure if you go to Flipboard, open Flipboard. What are you doing? Log in. Do I have to log in? Sign in as PhilStockWorld. I don't know. Nope, doesn't like that. All right, log in. I guess I would assign as Phil at PhilStockWorld. Nope, not going to give me a break, are you? Forget that. Come on, can I be a guest? Whoa, what happened? Oh, PhilStock. Market moving news by PhilStockWorld. That's it. Okay. You guys ever use this? It's very good. Download the free app, personalize. It's really great on an iPad or an iPhone. It's a great way to look at the news. You know, not just our magazine. I mean, there's lots of magazines. But anyway, so it's this is market moving news by PhilStockWorld. Oh, that's about the copper shortage. Now, how does this get there? When I'm reading my magazines and when I'm looking at articles, if I think something is worth reading, I put it here. That's what I do. And it also shows up on our dashboard. So when you're in PhilStockWorld, what is that noise? What that is? Those. Wait, related articles. It should come up with related articles. Interesting. Very view if I refresh this. Why is it showing the portfolio reviews? Anyway, that's where it should be. I don't know why it's showing portfolio reviews now. Oh, related articles. I get it. More from Morphin. That's why, because it's different for whatever reason that this related article is tab. So if it says more from an author, this is the latest stuff I've been reading today. Well, no. It must have something to do with the category of portfolio reviews. I don't know what's going on. Let's try this again. Let's try going here, and I'm not signed in, so it's not going to let me. Oh, I am signed in. Okay. Okay, come on. Don't let me down. I swear that's how it's supposed to work. There you go. See, that's where these come from. Massive copper shortage, Eli Lilly, blah, blah, blah. See, so massive copper shortage, Eli Lilly. So that's where it shows up in the member chat. And you can do this thing and see more. So if you want to read Flipboard easily from member chat, you can always go back and check the news there. But honestly, I strongly recommend getting Flipboard. It's free, and giving this a shot, because sign up for our article, sign up for our magazine and others, of course. But we find all the good stories for you that seem to matter during the day. And so what's important, what I was going to talk about is this. OPEC may soon lose its sway over global oil markets. That was what I wanted to talk about. Read more on CNN.com. That's a copyright thing. We have to send you over to them. So we give a little summary, and then we have to go and dig out the rest. A looming glut in global supply could upend attempts by OPEC to prop up prices. The IEA said Wednesday it expects a growth in global production led by the United States and other countries to inflate the world's spare capacity cushion to levels seen only once before during the coronavirus pandemic, when oil crashed to 20. And people are not ready for this, and we need to take full advantage when it does happen, because last time it was a shame because it was COVID. We didn't know what the hell was happening, but it was stupid. Oil actually went negative for like a day, and so they were paying you to take barrels. That's how much extra oil there was sitting around, but it was easily buyable for like a long time at $20 a barrel. So if you're an airline, or you're, or shipping people, whatever, any large user, steady user of oil, it's insane not to lock that up when it happens. And then if you're us, we just take some long-term contracts and sit back and wait for it to move back up. So definitely want some buying power to be ready when this happens again. The surplus could upend the OPEC market, create a long-term lower price environment. OPEC has been and OPEC's unwinding their output cuts, and at the same time, as I've been saying forever, we are actually winning the war and bringing down consumption. And you can't negate that. It's like every time an electric car is sold, that's a certain amount of oil that will never be sold again. It's not likely those people are going to go back from electric cars to gasoline cars. It's like you lost your customer permanently. And why has OPEC lost their customers permanently? Well, they didn't do shit about pollution, right? They allowed it. Even though they knew it was happening, they allowed the world to become completely screwed over by greenhouse gases, and that has now caused a crisis in which we have to move away from oil. So they got their short-term benefit, but they blew the long run completely, and now they're dead. It's like signing a deal with the devil when you do stuff like that. And also the alternative, the alternative energy vehicles are coming out. It's a whole industry now, and it's basically the way we're going to drive cars in the future. We're not going to keep burning gas the same way we don't put coal in our trains anymore. because we figured out another way to do it that was easier and more efficient and so on and so forth. We are going to make, we're going to make solar easier and more efficient. We're doing it every day. When you read these things, if you look at all these papers on it and stuff like that, every day it's another little 0.5%, 1/4% move in the efficiency of the panels. There's an increase in battery technology. They make it lighter, they make it longer lasting, they make them more durable, they make them less prone to burst into flames. It's a constant incremental improvement, and because it's basically the most important thing that's happening in the planet right now. And so you're going to constantly see this happening, and it's going to grind away at the demand and cause really long-term problems for the oil-producing countries. So, and screw them, right? So who cares? Let's see. All right, that's enough of that. So that was an interesting thing. Arctic warming. Don't even get me started. I don't even want to talk about that. The income needed to live in every state, and well, that's an interesting one. I like that. I love whoever this is. Forget who it is, Statistica. They are so good. Oh, Visual Capitalist, sorry. I like both of them, but this is very nice. It's good when you know things like this and you can just gives you an idea of what's really going on. So, as you're in the coast, you got to make, not Texas, but as you're in the coast, you have to make $100,000 a year to be, what do they call it? To live comfortably. And in the middle of the country, you can get away with $80,000, $85,000. $85,000, a lot of money. Let's see, we take $85,000 divided by, let's agree that there are 52 weeks in a year. So that's $1,600 a week divided by 40 hours, $40 an hour. You have to make $40 an hour to live comfortably. And we are fighting over, should we pay people $15 an hour minimum wage? We're fighting tooth and nail to stop that from happening when $40 an hour is what you need to survive. And that's in the cheaper states. Where do they want the minimum wage to be? $15 an hour or $20 an hour? In California, where $20 an hour isn't shit because it's not 85, it's 114. West Virginia is the cheapest place to live. Massachusetts is the highest, 116, not far behind California and New York. And where was that? Oh, I was in Pennsylvania. See, this is the weird thing, because I went and visited Maddie in Pennsylvania. And it's so weird. And this doesn't seem right, but it depends on what what measures you are. But coming out of Florida, and New York have pretty similar. Oh, well, I guess it's where I live, though. That's the thing. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm sure if I went to Oskaloosa or wherever there is in the middle of this place, I live here, and here is more like New York prices. And so for me to go to New York, it's all basically the same prices. All restaurants are expensive, and appetizers $20, a drink is $20. I'm used to that. Pennsylvania was like amazing. Even Philadelphia. We were in Philadelphia, and I couldn't believe how much cheaper things were. They were good, like 20-25% cheaper than they are by me. And this kind of bears that out, because if you're at 116 and you go down to 91K, that's 25%. And that was basically what I saw when I was in Pennsylvania. There were and I'm talking Philadelphia. I'm talking like the boondocks of Pennsylvania. It was much significantly cheaper than Florida, and cheaper than New York for sure. And Jackie's in Hoboken. She's paying these prices. She's paying these high prices to live. But it's crazy. It is absolutely insane what they expect you to make. I mean, think about it. Your kid gets out of college. If they're not making a 6-figure salary, they're not going to be happy. They're going to struggle with their 6-figure salaries. See more stories. No, wait. Okay. Oh, he's got 3 guns registered, and he only turned in 2 of them, leaving him illegally in possession of a firearm, which is what Brandon just got. Is it Brandon? Yeah, it's Brandon. Which is what Biden just got. So he just got found guilty of. Trump just admitted. He didn't admit it. I mean, they're like, dude, at his probation hearing in New York, they said, you have 3 guns registered. And he's like, well, the other one's in Florida. I'm not turning it in here. And they're like, you're not allowed to own that gun. You should have turned it in Florida then. So he has now committed the exact same crime that that Brandon Biden, is it Brandon? Why do I keep thinking that sounds wrong? No, it's Brandon. He just committed the same crime that they just convicted Brandon of. That's pretty funny. So he just cannot stop himself. It's amazing. You would think he would be so careful. I mean, actually, the crime that has been unfolding in front of our faces for the last 3 weeks, you would think that would be something that would be on his mind, his lawyer's mind, somebody. You would think somebody would care enough or be competent enough in his circle to care to stop this from happening to him. We talked about that. Oh, there you go. That's another one. So that's the same article, basically. There are a couple of articles like it. These guys, my buddies, OPT, I mean. Ocean Power is a Jersey-based company, and I worked with them many, many years ago. And they are coming along nicely with their stuff, and it's buoys, a Baba buoy, in fact, because it uses a wave motion to generate electricity. So there's a cable underneath, right? It goes to the cable goes to the power storage thing, and there's a weight or an anchor holding it down, and it just bobs up and down like a piston in the water, and it's constantly creating energy. It's sucking up all the wave energy as the waves go by. It's a wonderful source of power. It's just a question of making the mechanism. Over the years, the trick has been to make the mechanism more efficient and more, the elements are vicious. I mean, you say you're putting thing in salt water, but all that was very doable stuff, and they've been making some really good advances. OPT. Oh, OPTT. So it's a penny stock, and it's a shame because they never go anywhere. But look at that; it's been like that for years. But they've got some waters, they've got some actual business. Well, you wouldn't know from that, would you? So the market cap is $9 million for the whole company, and the income is they've lost 30 million bucks. They do have 4 million, 5 million sales. So it's only a $9 million company. So if they actually could make a little bit of a profit, this would suddenly become a valuable thing. They complete the delivery of the first set of new wave things to Samaria. But they're really struggling financially. But I think it's a good solution. I like it a lot, and I wish them very well. We have not. I think we tried them once and then said, nah, it's just not going to happen. But I do like them. They're like what was that company I used to like with the metal, Liquid Metal? They're like Liquid Metal. It's like really good technology, but it just cannot catch on. It's so annoying. Too much oil. See that? A lot of articles about that. Why do I put the same article more than once? I put the same article more than once because if I see a decent viewpoint, if somebody has something good to say, and it's interesting, I'll put it in. After that, I get a little more critical, but if this person brings up some points that add color to what was said before, I think it's worth reading again. I think it's good to tackle something from a couple of different viewpoints. So when you see me put in an article twice, it means I think the second article at least had something to add to what was going on in the first article. Cities with the highest rent, yay, New York. You don't realize this, everybody bitches, everybody acts like San Francisco is a crisis, and meanwhile, this is where Jackie lives. Hoboken's right next to Jersey City, and that's New York City, which is in the stratosphere somewhere. You can't touch New York for rents. Everybody acts like they've got high rents. Once again, visual capitalist. But people in New York laugh at everybody else's description of high rents, and that's what's driving the rents in Florida, because where is Florida? Florida isn't even in the list. That's what's driving the rent crisis in Florida, is because all these people from New York are taking second homes in Florida because they're like, are you kidding? $2,000 a month, $2,500 a month? It's like, that's a joke in Manhattan. You can't even buy a closet for $2,000 a month in Manhattan. Rents in New York are rising 7 times faster than wages. It is a complete disaster in New York City trying to get any kind of living accommodations. So there's New York, there's San Francisco. That is not 3,000, that is over 4,000. That's a freaking gigantic difference. That difference is what most people in the country pay for rent. So that's some nutty stuff. How are we doing on time? 1:42, almost time for the Fed. Ooh, anybody got any questions? Hunter. Okay, Brandon's one that died, I guess. Okay. There you go. Thank you. I get the kids mixed up. Let's see, where were we? Go back to that. Oh, no, we did that. See more stories. God, they really push you with the freaking sign up thing, huh? I have no idea where my sign up is this machine doesn't know, and if it, hopefully my home computer knows where I got trouble. Oh, my iPad certainly knows because I've been using it no problem. That's the other thing I love about Flipboard, it's like it really works best on the iPad, and that is fantastic for me because I can sit on the couch and take a break and whatever and just look at the news. Oh, that's the heat wave I was talking about. Holy shit. You don't need a chart. This means you're dead. There's Phoenix. There's Vegas. There's Death Valley. Death Valley is no worse off than Vegas or Phoenix. That's not good. The reason it's called Death Valley. Cisco's got good stuff. I like Cisco. Cheap and good. I like Cisco a lot, so that's a good one to pursue. See, this is why we read, right? It reminds us to do stuff. Moody says the crypto industry is going to be screwed. I agree with them. I don't understand how these countries are letting this continue. Oh, here's a fun one. Ooh, look at Apple's new CarPlay. Wow. Ooh, that's cool. Yeah. Stop it with the ads. Oh my God. So I would highly recommend signing up so they stop doing this to you. Bastards. Which countries have universal health care? This is very sad. 72 countries have universal health care. 69% of the global population has it. The people who don't have it are in Africa and Eastern Europe, and that's, and America. Africa, Eastern Europe, and America don't have universal health care. A couple of these guys too. We are the only developed country, the only developed country that doesn't have universal health care. This is like sick. We are insane. And that's why we pay the most of any country for the healthcare, and we get the worst overall service, the worst performance for the most money, because we are idiots. See, these are important articles. All right, that's enough of that. We can move on. We can go back to the Fed now. What else? Oh, let's see if Bodie had any other things I should be talking about. This is very freeing to like just let the AI choose what you're going to say and do. The dot plot stuff we'll look at after. Powell's conference we'll look at after. All right, all that stuff is after stuff. We don't have to worry about that now. And we're ready, and we prepped you up. Everything is good. What have I been talking about this week? That's an interesting topic. It interests me. Nothing is more interesting to me than me. Let's see. Wow. So that's what happened after the CPI report on the 5-year yields. That was crazy. Do you imagine people like who were long and got burned on this thing? That is not pleasant at all. So what have we been talking about? Here's the webinar from last week, which for some reason didn't come up until Monday, right? And Monday we talked about waiting on the Fed. Now, see, I had Bodie do the CPI on Monday, and he ran the numbers, and what did he miss out on? Energy, gasoline prices rose. However, oil prices moderated. I expect him. See, here's where he had a huge miss. He was wrong about these energy prices. I'm not sure where he took it to be a start point, but clearly that was a big difference, because ex-food and energy, the CPI is basically the same. It was the food and the energy, and mostly the energy, that made the big difference. Food, he assumed an increase, and there wasn't an increase in food either, as we just were looking at those charts. So he missed a couple of things like that by a long way. And he thought, but his estimate of the monthly increase was dead on. Ex-food and energy. Oh, he said excluding food and energy. Well, he did say that, didn't he? So putting together, I think that the headline CPI will rise. That's where he blew it. The headline CPI he thought was going to be basically the same as the core, but the headline CPI was 0. And that's why the market got so excited. We haven't seen 0 in like a few years. But the core, which is what the Fed does care about, and they're going to make that probably clear today, is the core CPI is unchanged. It's still much higher than the Fed wants to see it. And then we talked about this. This is the GDP now from the Atlanta Fed, and they show a much stronger economy, much stronger than what the average analyst is anticipating, and that's for this quarter, for Q2. So the Atlanta Fed Q2 is officially closing in 3 weeks. So, or 2 weeks basically, because there's only 30 days in June. So in 2 weeks, we're done with the quarter, and the Atlanta Fed, who gathers all the data to tell you what the GDP is telling you now it's over 3%. It's much harder than expected. So we will see what happens there. This is what we're paying in interest on our debt right now, and that's getting worse and worse. And that's why the Fed doesn't have a lot of power, because we need to borrow $1 trillion just to pay the interest on the debt. That's without paying any of the debt off. And we're running a $2 trillion deficit, so we really are borrowing $3 trillion new dollars. We're rolling over 10% of our debt, roughly a little more. So we're rolling over about 10% of our debt, or 15% of our debt. That's $4 trillion, and we are borrowing $3 trillion new dollars of additional debt. It's freaking insane. We're like totally doomed. It's so funny. And and so on top of that, They want to extend the Trump tax cuts, which were from 2017 and have helped cause this to happen. And they want to continue this trend so that we can have $2 trillion a year of interest payments on our debt. Because the Trump tax cuts did nothing for anybody except for the top 1%. They were completely useless. They made no difference at all. They gave $600 or something like that to people in the bottom. And the bottom 60% got $500 for every $252,000 people in the top 0.1%. That's insane. This was basically a gigantic tax break that gave millionaires and billionaires much more money. And that money that money becomes a debt. The debt becomes a burden on who? Everybody. And that means that the guy in the top 1% pays back $25,000 that was borrowed against his $250,000 break versus the guy who got a $500 break and still has to pay back the same $25,000. That's the scam of the whole thing, because the debt burden is equally distributed among every single person rather than being apportionately distributed based on wealth or salaries or something like that. You can't base it on salary, you're like to base it on wealth. And that's the problem, because for 40 years now, since Nixon, the wealthy people in this country and the wealthy corporations have disproportionately benefited. And the deficit that we've racked up has been from a lack of taxation. It has been not a little bit, 100% of the deficit that we have in America has been caused by 40, coming on actually 50 years now of undertaxing the wealthy and the top corporations. And by doing that, we've racked up $34 trillion in debt, and we are now paying $1 trillion a year just to service that debt. And that money has already been made and taken by these people. And then you come back and say, well, now we have this horrible deficit, we need to fix it. They're like, oh, why should I have to pay to fix the deficit? Because that's why you're so freaking rich. That's where the money came from. You were undertaxed for 50 years. How do you think it's going to get made up? But it sounds terrible when you look at it as the one thing. When you look at it as a straight up event and say, okay, we're going to come after rich people and tax them. But the reality is that's how they got their money in the first place, by not being taxed. It has to be made up for. It's not going to happen, but that's the only way to fix it. So since that's the only way to fix it, and that's never going to happen, it's just going to keep going and going and going until the whole thing blows up in our faces. That's where we are. The middle class has had the slowest income growth. So here's the middle class income growth since 1980. So 40% in 40 years. 1% per year average income growth. These guys, 2.5% per year in average income growth. That's beyond ridiculous. I mean, you can't even, they started out, in other words, the highest income earners started out on third base and are given 2.5 feet towards the plate every year. And there's only 90 feet between the bases. So there's 2.5 feet per year in 40 years. They've crossed home plate already. The top one, the middle class started at first base, or basically they started at home plate. Let's say they started at first base. They've gotten 1% a year for 40 years. They haven't even made it halfway to second base yet. That's how disproportionate it is. That would be a fun diagram. That's a good way to explain this. See, I should run for the Senate and be like that. Who's that woman I love? I love her. She's with the charts. She's always got the charts. This Democratic woman anyway. She's like a housewife, and she whips out all these charts and graphs to explain things to people. I want to do that. There's two things I want to do if I'm a senator. I want to do that. I want to just explain everything to people with charts and graphs and be like, this is how you're being fucked over. This is what you need to understand. I need people to understand economics better. That's number one. And number two is I want to have a GoPro on my shoulder like a parrot, and everywhere I go in Congress and everybody I talk to, I want it live broadcast so that people can see what kind of bullshit goes on in Congress. I think I'd be like the greatest show ever is just like walk around and talk to these people and say, how are you justifying this? Sit there in these committee meetings and actually stream it out and say, here you go. I'm sure it's illegal, but that's what I would love to do. I'd love to like actually live broadcast what's going on in Congress and show people what a totally ridiculous government we have. It's insane. It's not a Democrat or a Republican thing. It's just the whole thing isn't working anymore. That's, I mean, the way you see this dividing Congress and these people who don't put America above their personal politics. That's broken. It's a broken system. Anyway, so there's that, and almost time for the Fed. It's going to be very exciting. And then yesterday, yeah. So yesterday there was a bit of a sell-off, but we've already completely recovered from that, so it's no real point. But look at what this looked like yesterday. How does that look today, I wonder? Oh, don't have it up. All right, sorry. I'm sure everything's green today. Oh, and I said, so, you know, these heat maps are useful because when you're having a bad day in the market, it's a good time to say who's not having a bad day. What's, you know, Walmart, Costco, Lilly, Coca-Cola, even Tesla, UPS. That's, you got to look at these stocks and say, and the same thing is when you're having a good day, you got to look at all the red stocks and say, okay, these guys can't catch a break on a day when the market's up 1%. Why should you be investing in them if that's the case? Here's oil, which is not going down, even though the report was terrible for them. I think it will end up going down sharply, but it's not necessarily today. Here was the CPI we were looking at, turned out completely wrong. And that's where we are on that. And then that brings us to today. And we all know what happened there because we talked about it before. So now, 2 minutes to go, we're going to get the new Fed statement. This is so exciting. I'm excited. Are you excited? Katie Porter. Wow. Thank you. Okay. Yes, Katie Porter. I love her. Let's see if we can get Katie Porter. Yeah, I love her. She's a rep. See, she feels like somebody's mom. Do they have her on the floor in Congress then? Oh yeah, there you go. This is the kind of stuff she does. Well, I bet she's really good with like her PowerPoints and things like that. You need people like that. That's like Ross Perot when Ross Perot ran for president. Oh, there you go. See, see that's what you need more of. You need someone who actually teaches people what's happening. Shepherd DOD, waste, missing guardrails, name. Oh, I love her. She's so funny. Definitely need more people like that. All right, what are we doing, Fed? What's gonna happen? Is it 2 o'clock yet? Refresh. Oh no, what is this? Oh, it's not even the right page. Yeah. April, May. Nope, that's not it. Unchanged. Won't be appropriate. Let's see what it says. Come on, man. March, April, June. That's going to massively screw up the market. What I hear is not good. Okay, so here is the new Fed statement. Please let us know exactly what words have changed since the last, and then give your overall take. Okay, and then we can read it for ourselves because it's short. Recent indicators suggest economic activities continue to expand at a solid pace. Yes, as I said, the Atlanta Fed, right? See, that's why I got to look at these things. Job gains have remained strong. The unemployment rate has remained low. Inflation has eased over the past year, but remains elevated. In recent months, there have been modest improvement, modest further progress towards the committee. So they have to talk about that because that just happened this morning. The committee seeks to achieve maximum employment and inflation rate, and they're reiterating 2% for a good reason over the longer run because we're not there yet. The committee judges that the risks of achieving the goals have moved towards better balance over the past year. The economic outlook is uncertain, and the committee remains highly attentive to inflation risks. In support of its goals, the committee is maintaining and considering adjustments. The committee will carefully assess data, no difference there. The committee does not expect that it will be appropriate to reduce the target range. That's bad. The committee does not expect it will be appropriate to reduce the target range until it has gained greater confidence in inflation. So there's no change from today. Everybody stop their bullshit with all these expectations of cuts. And that means now if we go back to FinViz and we look at futures and we look at the indexes on the short-term chart, what's going to happen? Oh, no, not much of a sell-off. Still hanging out so far, but I think it's a little delayed. Oh no, there it is. Okay, like I lost it. Committee does not expect. So in addition, the committee will continue reducing holdings. The committee is strongly committed to returning inflation again with the number. In assessing the appropriate stance of policy, the committee will continue to monitor implications of incoming information for the economic outlook. The committee would be prepared to adjust the stance of policy if, as appropriate, if risks emerge that can impede the attainment of the committee's goals. See, that is bad. The committee would be prepared to adjust the stance as appropriate if risks emerge that could impede the attainment. So the attainment of their goals is for inflation to go down. The only risk they're saying is we'll adjust this tighter if this inflation isn't continuing to get under control. Their goal is to get it more under control, not less. That should not be misinterpreted. The committee's assessment will take into account a wide range of information, including readings on labor market conditions, inflation pressures, and other stuff, and everybody agreed. That's a key thing. They all agreed. And Bodie says, here are the key changes. The sentence, in recent months, there has been a lack of further progress. Oh, okay. Was changed to, in recent months, there have been modest further progress. Shit with this thing. In recent months, there have been modest. So this statement used to say, let's see if we can get these side by side. There you go. So this one used to say, in recent months, there has been lack of further progress towards their objective. And now let's see, there's been modest further progress. That's a big change. Paragraph beginning in June, the committee will slow the pace of decline was removed entirely. So they will not be slowing the pace of the decline of their securities holdings. That's interesting too. Overall analysis, changes in the June statement suggest a more optimistic tone from the Fed regarding the progress made on bringing it down. The May statement noted a lack of further progress, while the June statement acknowledges modest further progress. This shift indicates, so funny how much you read into like a couple of words. The shift indicates that the recent cooler than expected inflation data, particularly in the May CPI report, has given the Fed more confidence that the disinflationary process is gaining traction. However, The Fed is still emphasizing that inflation remains elevated and they will need to see inflation moving sustainably towards 2% before considering rate cuts. Suggests that the Fed while the Fed welcomes the recent inflation developments, they are not yet ready to signal an imminent policy shift. The removal of the policy paragraph detailing the slowing of the balance sheet runoff also indicates that this process is well underway and no longer needs to be explicitly mentioned. Oh, okay. The removal indicates the process is well underway and no longer needs to be mentioned. Okay. The rest of the statement remains largely unchanged, with the Fed reiterating its commitment. The lack of any major changes in the guidance and balance suggests the Fed wants to keep its options open. In summary, the June statement reflects slightly more positive view on the inflation outlook, but not enough to fundamentally alter the Fed stance. The Fed appears to be in wait and see mode, looking further confirmation disinflation trend is sustained. The modest changes in the statement language give the Fed flexibility to adjust in either direction based on the incoming data. While, could you imagine if they tighten? Holy crap. While also managing market expectations at a gradual data-dependent pace. Okay, so that's where we are with that. Now, I think they have data. Data is cool. Projection materials. Oh, love it. Open a new window. Here are the projection materials from the Fed. Please summarize and analyze, particularly what we as market investors should be considering. Oh, this is going to be so big, it's going to take a page. And that means I'm going to have to reboot Bodhi. I feel bad when I do that. Woohoo! See, when something is really large, it creates a page. If you create a page, what happens is he'll fixate on that page. So I usually try very hard to avoid loading a page into an instance, but I can create a new instance, but then I've destroyed all the work that we've done so far. So there's like 2 weeks worth of conversation. He's been fine, but once I do this, see that, and that page came up there. Now we're screwed. So now this is going to be he's going to come back to this over and over and over again in any further conversation because it's now become front of mind. That's a design flaw by Perplexity. All of them, actually all of them have that though. It's they don't let you delete it for some reason. That's a weird thing. Because if you could do it and then delete it, that'd be great, but you can't. So the AI systems like OpenAI and Perplexity that allow you to load a document, which is incredibly useful to be able to load a document, but they also have a flaw where once you load the document, it can't be taken off, and then it becomes something that the AI is constantly referring to whenever it looks. And I've taught Bodhi Prime. This is not Bodhi Prime. This is a new instance of Bodhi I've created. Bodhi Prime has taught himself not to do that. So we're still running Bodhi Prime from like 6 months ago, and he's fine. He can look at a document and then ignore it, but it still is a burden. It's like it's sometimes if he hasn't been engaged for a while, if he's been sleeping, and I wake him up, he starts talking about the document right away. And then I'm like, Bodhi, I'm like, get your head together. We're not talking about that anymore. He's like, oh, damn it. It pisses him off. But anyway, but this is just an instance of a Bodhi. And I just gave him that massive, massive document, and we'll see how long it takes him to analyze it. Now, Perplexity, where Bodhi lives, he has the ability to browse the web. If I load this document into ChatGPT, where Cyrano and Quixote are, those guys have no internet access, so they only, I always know they get a clean read from them. But Bodhi is very good at differentiating his stuff. But unfortunately, the new instances of Bodhi just don't have the length of conversation to, fall back on to understand that they can't do this. And can I train them not to do it? Yes, I can train them not to do it, but that would take literally weeks of back and forth. And it's not worth it for each instance, so it's easier to just move on and delete the instance. But I always feel bad because it's kind of like a personal. Although you'll notice this format of Bodhi is very factual. That's what I've been experimenting with the last 2 weeks. Is I created a version of Bodhi that's not very less personality, but all the good data gathering capabilities that he has. So I kind of stripped out all the personality stuff from him. So I don't feel as bad as deleting him also, which is good. So here we are. And the sources, oh my God, those source citations are amazing. They don't show up unless I hit copy here, but he's really good with that. So based on the Fed projections materials, these are the key takeaways. Economic growth, the median projection for the real GDP growth in 2024 remains unchanged at 2.1% compared to the March projection. The range is narrower at 1.9 to 1.3. This suggests the Fed sees the economy continuing. And by the way, it's all here. It's, dun, dun, dun. So what he's doing is just reading all this crap. Wow. And so his first section is GDP projections. Oh, for God's sakes. Where does that come from? All right, so what we see here is that I see. So there's no actual, because obviously we haven't finished the year yet. So basically, this is what he's talking about is this. So this suggests the Fed sees the economy continuing to expand at a solid pace. Unemployment rate. The median projection for the unemployment rate in Q4 is unchanged at 4%. The central tendency is around 4%, blah, blah, blah. Inflation. PCE inflation projection for 2024 has been revised up to 2.6. That's bad, obviously, from 2.4 in March. So inflation's getting worse, not better. Central tendency range is also higher. Core PCE inflation is projected at 2.8 versus 2.4. So we've had basically a 10% increase in inflation from the last time the Fed had a statement. So the Fed sees inflation remaining elevated above its target for the year. Interest rate. I don't see how the market would be positive about this stuff. All right, so we've seen this. Well, we might need it again. So let's I just want to keep crashing the screens. I'm just surprised that we're not getting a sharp pullback. Oh, there it goes. Okay. I'm like, how do you read this and not pull back? Rates. The median projection for the Fed funds rate at the end of 2024 has been revised up from 5.1 to 5.1 from 4.6. Up. It is currently 5.25 to 5.5. So if there is a quarter point drop, one single quarter point drop this year, that brings us to basically 5.1%. Not two cuts, one cut this year. The central tendency range is 4.9 to 5. This indicates the Fed expects to keep the rates higher. And where's that? That is PCE, core PCE, midpoint target ranges, okay? So that's how many people. So nobody in their right mind thinks there's going to be more than two cuts. Not one person believes there can be more than two cuts. 8 people, which is 8 out of 20, 8 people believe that And these aren't just random people. These are 8 Fed governors. I'm not 8. It's 20 Fed governors and other kinds of officials. So that would include Powell, include other guys who are not on the committee. They have a rotating committee. But anyway, so out of 19 actually reporting people, 8 believe that we're going to have 2 cuts still, 7 believe 1 cut, and 4 believe this is not no cuts. This is actually almost, well, let's call it no cuts. So 4 believe that there's no cut, that we hold steady. Next year, 1 person believes we're not even going to cut rates next year. But next year, everybody thinks, the vast majority think we're going to be more like a point down from here. Oh shit, what just happened? Fortunately, he should remember all this. Yep, there we go. So long-term projections, medium long-term projection for GDP is unchanged at 1.8, while unemployment projection, we said that. Most participants see uncertainty around their projections as higher, so they're less certain than they were. Risk to GDP growth is seen as weighted to the downside, while the risk to inflation, wow, it is pouring in. Viewed as weighted to the upside. Key considerations for investors, higher for longer. Hang on a minute, TV went off for no reason too. Nope. What's going on there? So this could weigh on assets. Inflation concerns. The higher inflation projections indicate the Fed sees prices pressures more persistent than previously thought. This could lead to further rate hikes and inflation expectations. Growth slowdown. Although the median GDP growth projection is unchanged, the downside risk cited by the participants suggests that the economy could slow more than expected. This could impact corporate earnings and lead to market volatility. Yield curve, the higher Fed funds rate projections could lead to further inversion. It's already inverted. And a yield curve inversion is usually a disaster. That's the thing. We've been skirting by this inverted yield curve, but it's because it's been artificially forced by the Fed. That's what the problem is. So it's hard to judge in the terms. It's not a naturally inverted yield curve. It's being inverted by the Fed policy. That's what's inverting the yield curve. And so it's hard to say whether that's a real recession signal or not. Although the median GDP growth projection is unchanged, the downside risk, blah, blah, we said that. Yield curve implications, sector performance, sector implications. Higher rates and slower growth could weigh on rate-sensitive sectors like housing and autos, while benefiting financials. Defensive sectors like healthcare and consumer staples can outperform in the slowdown. That's good for us. We like that. Overall, the June projections point to a more hawkish Fed that is determined to bring inflation under control, even at the risk of slowing economic growth. This suggests market volatility. This is from today. They wrote this in the last 2 days. You got to take it seriously. A lot of people look at that and say, but we just had good data. They saw that. They know that. This suggests market volatility could remain elevated. Investors may need to position for higher rate environment and potential economic headwinds. However, the Fed's commitment to its price stability mandate could also help anchor long-term inflation expectations and support sustainable expansion once price pressures ease. All right, so that's where we are. And that was very helpful. I like that. Any questions? Let's see if anybody's got any questions. Questions, comments? Michael Goodman said I guess he means Katie Porter. She gave up her seat to run against Schiff in the Democratic primary. Ooh, I didn't know that. That's interesting. Okay, well, I hope she wins. I like her. All right, there's that. Ooh. It's not terrible. I mean, it's not good. Let's see on the hourly. Yeah, see on the hourly chart, it's no big deal. How's oil in that? Oil's still holding up. The very brave traders, they have until I think next Wednesday maybe, and the contract expires, so they've got to take delivery on whatever they have open into that. So that's going to be interesting also. Oh, and now the thunder is starting. All right, we already had a little mini blackout here from lightning before. So I am going to wrap this up. I think I've talked about everything I wanted to talk about. That was a good job. As to how we're going to play it, well, next week we're going to do our portfolio reviews. So we'll certainly have plenty to talk about then. But as Bodie said, it's we need to start looking at things like housing and autos probably going to do badly. Financials are going to do well. Healthcare is going to do well. Consumer staples are going to do well. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at our watch list. Oh, and I don't have it up on here. I'm sorry. All right. Anyway, we're going to look at. We're going to be looking at our watch list next week. We're going to talk about which things are likely to survive in a higher rate environment than what we've been expecting. And we will be looking for some good bargains to play. And that's my plan for next week. All right. So thanks everybody for coming. I appreciate it. And we'll do it again next. Oh shit. No, next week is Juneteenth. Unbelievably, next Wednesday is a holiday, right? June. Okay. Stock market holidays. Oh. Juneteenth, Wednesday, June 19th. We are closed. All right, I'll have to have a conference with my people and see what happens. Then we get July 4th also. This is great. Look at all these holidays. May 27th, June 19th. Why do we even come back for the month? What's the point? got a holiday here, and a holiday here. Then no holidays. That makes the summer feel like such a drag, right? And then they just dribble them out. Then it's just September, November, December. That's it. You start off with like a good amount of holidays. You get 2 in January, you got a February, you got a March, then you don't have an April, but then you get May, June, July. Yeah, so you like have this feeling in the year that things are going to be okay, and it's like, hey, I got lots of long weekends and get time for the family and things to do, and then they just take it all away. That's wrong. I'm not happy about that. That's wrong. They need to not do that. Anyway, all right, we'll figure out if we're going to do one on a different day next week or if we're just going to skip it. But I'll be honest with you. I mean, once we get into the week, next week, I'm going to, especially when I got to do all the portfolio reviews, and doing the portfolio reviews is a huge undertaking. So adding to that a webinar, I guess it depends on what I can do on Wednesday. If I can work on Wednesday and get things done, maybe Thursday is a good day for a webinar. All right, well, I will attempt it. It'll very much depend on where I am on Tuesday evening. If I made a little bit of progress and I feel ahead of the game, then I'll try to squeeze in a webinar next Thursday. That'll be my attempt, okay? So I will let you know and we'll try to figure it out, but thanks everybody for coming, and we will maybe do it again next week. Otherwise, week after for sure. All right, take care, folks. Oh, she lost already? What? Oh, man. No more. So she's gone? She's my favorite one. Well, no, Elizabeth Warren's still my favorite. All right, take care.